Hello everyone, welcome to an episode of TCC Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, we're going to go over my RTN results and what happened today. I ended up going to the only RTN I could attend the whole season. Sadly, it was a draft RTN at Reaper Games over in Denton. So if you're ever in the Dallas area, definitely check them out. Bill, who's one of the head guys over there, is just awesome. Been supporting the scene since day one. So definitely go over there, check them out. It was really fun. 32 player RTN. Like I said, it was draft. And I ended up drafting Phi in both pods. We did 6 rounds total, 3 rounds draft, 3 rounds, 3 rounds. The first pod I just naturally chose Phi, and we'll get into that in a minute. And then the second pod was kind of odd, where I kind of forced Phi because I wasn't sure. And so overall, I went 4-2. I got ninth place, so I bubbled out at ninth. Did not make top 8, but we had, I think, if I remember correctly, 2 people with 5 wins, and then we had like a 8 to 10 way tie. It might have been more than 2 people with 5 wins. There was 2 or 3 people with 5 wins, and then we had literally like an 8-9 way tie for 4 wins. And I lost early, which I'll get into here in a second, which really sucked. But overall, it was really fun. I went 4-2, so I can't really like be too upset about it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I played well. I don't really think I screwed up anywhere per se. And just overall, some of the games didn't go my way. But we'll get into it. Overall, good performance for me. 4-2. I'm happy with it, and I'll try again next season. But because of work, I just kind of attend a lot of RTNs. And then on the bright side, we got obviously 3 packs for each pod for playing. Then we got to play with, and then we got 3 packs at the end just for participating. Because like I said, Bill's awesome, and I ended up pulling a Marvel Kyloria in one of my 3 packs. So you know what? That pays for the entry fee right there. It's $35, $40 card, depending on where you're at. But yeah, we'll get into it. So to start, we'll go into pod 1. Like I said, I chose 5 both pods. Pod 1 was interesting. It was obviously you're trying to read signals, right? You're trying to draft the proper way, but at the same time, like a lot of people in this format, and I'm not complaining or anything, it's just how people play, force fight. Or they'll force a hero and they don't pay attention to signals, at least at a base level, which really screws up your pod, because you'll be thinking a pod's going a certain way, and then all of a sudden something will dry up because someone started forcing, right? So for me, I try to stay kind of wide a little bit for the first few picks with Draconic, but then I quickly realized that like I got past, I think it was pick 4 or 5, I got past it's like my first pack 1 pick 1, I gave up a take the tempo because I was like, I don't want to go that hard in a Phi yet. It's a really nice card, but like I want to try to stay open. So I think I took like a Blaze Headlong or something. But there was one pack where I was at pick like 5 or 6 of my first pack, and I got handed a Blaze Headlong, I got handed a Breaking Point, and I got handed a Double Strike, all in the same pack. And I was like, okay, well, there's probably some people who aren't going as wide as you would think. Because Blaze Headlong, if you're going wide early, I mean, that's an automatic pick. 0-4 go again, both in Phi and Dromide's fantastic card. Definitely something that you just like automatically pick up without even thinking about it. So because of that, when I saw this card with Breaking Point and Double Strike like halfway through the pack, I was like, okay, there's not a lot of ninjas in this pod, or at least not on that side of the table. So I started kind of going a little bit heavier in the ninja when I did that. And then the second pack, it was like all ninja cards. And I was like, okay, I'm between 2 Icelanders. Like I stopped seeing Icelander cards really quickly on the second pack. And I was like, okay, I think I'm between 2 Icelanders here. So I did end up being between both Icelanders. We had 2 Icelanders in our pod. I think we had 3 Phis and then 2 Dromais. And I was between both Icelanders. So like early in each pack, I got like pick of the litter when it comes to like really good cards. So obviously Phi, with the Emberblade, and then we got the not full equipment suite. We ended up getting these 3 pieces. We didn't get the chest piece, but Heatwave's always really nice. Just this card you keep in the game as late as humanly possible. I actually tend to not pick my equipment pack 1. I'll pick my equipment like pack 2 personally, because that's when I've kind of like now started to zero in on where I want to go, unless it's like a legendary or something, obviously. So we picked all 3 of those. So once I decided I was going into Phi, I have a couple principles I try to run. They're pretty standard. I'm looking for 8 to 10 good blues, and then I'm looking for good reds, and I'm looking for 0 cost reds, and I'm looking for starters. If in Phi, in my opinion, if you don't get at least, I would say, 8 to 10 starters, you shouldn't play Fi. That's just my opinion. You need those starters to continue your turns. And I'll see if I'm even listening to my advice here because I'm pretty sure I had 8, or what I consider 8. So we had the 3 Phoenix Flames. It's kind of a no brainer. First starter, like we picked a Rising Resentment. Brand with Cinder Claw. And then I'll kind of go into. We'll do it this way actually. Conditional. I'm gonna divvy them up into conditional and non-conditional. Go again. I count this as it's not a starter technically, I guess, if you really want to be super specific. Okay, so we'll get into the rupture cards in a second. So I end up getting 8 starters here. I count Burn Away as a starter. A lot of people don't like Burn Away. I love Burn Away. It's a 0 for unlimited. It's a 0 for 4 go again, automatic. The only time Burn Away sucks is when you draw it in your opening hand, which I did in one game. But like, it's so you draw into your flames so quickly in this build, and I like running 3 flames with like 2 burnaways, which is what I did. And this card is just really, really good. I enjoy it. Some people disagree with it, but it's whatever. Brand with Cinder Claw is an obvious choice. Rising Resentment, obvious choice. Soaring Strike, 1 good Flame Call Awakening. I like to get 2 of these so I can go get my flames quicker, but it's not that bad. Rebellious Rush, obviously you want Engulfing Flame Wave, but I actually like having 1 or 2 of these in the deck. And I'll tell you why in a second. 1, because it's a 2 for 5, and 5 in limited is a lot. Like, it's a quarter of the life. And when you can do Rebellious Rush, especially if you get like Sand of this Sanderkai or whatever, the chess piece, you play Rebellious Rush, you pop Sand, gain a resource off your blue, go back up to 2 resources, then play Ember Blade for 3, then play a 0 cost. So all of a sudden you're doing like 10 plus damage pretty quickly. I like it. Dust Runner Outlaw is really good, obviously. Then we had our, what I call like conditional go agains. We drew into 2 Stoke the Flames and Lava Vein. I like Stoke the Flames in the mirror because I like being able to like play like 2 links, like a starter and then Ember Blade, like Ronin Renegade or Brand with Ember Blade. I've dealt 5 damage. Now all of a sudden I'm doing Stoke the Flames for 5, and if you let it hit, it gets go again, which this actually worked in one of the 5 years. It put a lot of pressure on it, kind of forced them to block out because I had 1 more card in hand. And if you would have let that hit, I was going to Lava Burst. And I didn't have any resources floating, so I couldn't do it. But it just depends. I don't know. I think it forces really good blocks, and it's a block 3. Lava Vein Loyalty and Blaze Headlong, they're pretty much go again cards. Like, they're not starters, but these cards in a limited build almost always get go again. So it's really not that bad. And then we had Rupture cards. I tend not to do more than 4 or 5 Rupture cards max. 10 around 3 or 4. So I had 2 Breaking Points and Rise Up in this deck, I think. Yeah, I think that's all I had in this deck. Breaking Point's really good. I like Breaking Point because, 1, if you can get its effect, sweet. But also, I just like it because it's a 1 for 5, right? At worst, this card's going to be hitting for 5, which is just really good inherently. So overall, I really enjoy the card. And then we have our cards that aren't attacks. We ended up getting Red Rise from the Ashes. If you can pick this card, I would. If you know you're gonna play 5, and you see this like in between pick 1 and 3, I'm picking it because this card is bonkers when you combine it with Blaze Headlong. When you combine it with Rebellious Rush, right? Like, you play this, pitch 2, Rebellious Rush for 8, right? And you still have like 1 or 2 more links, or you play this, then play Blaze Headlong for 7, right? Play Flame Call Awakening for 6. Because, like, similar to the concept in CC, it's really good because it allows you to basically deal a lot of damage to your opponent and be able to then come in with like 2 or 3 more links. This allows you to leak a lot of damage. Also got a Yellow Rise from the Ashes, and then 1 Sigil Protection just in case I needed it for like Iceland or something crazy. And that was my reds. And then for blues, we just got 10 good blues, right? If I'm pushing these to the side here. Rapid Reflex. It's a 3-block blue, and in a pinch you can use it to give it a card +1, which literally won a game off of. My round 3 win, I won off of this card. It's just good. Another block 3 blue, Lava Vein Loyalty, Dust Runner Outlaw, Dust Runner Outlaw. These are just good blues. Sword Strike, these are like more aggro based blues. Brothers in Arms is really good because you can pay 1 into it and get it to block for 4. Rising Resentment, Cinder Skin Devotion, another block 3 blue, another Cinder Skin Devotion, and then another Lava Vein Loyalty. So I had 6 3 block blues, 5 3 block blues, 1 4 block blue technically, and then 4 2 block blues. So 10's a little much for blues. I think you can go down to 8 or 9, but I did 10 just because I knew there was 2 Icelanders in our pod that I was probably gonna be playing against. So I wanted to have 10 good blues. So that was pod 1. Round 1, I lost to a 5 mirror, 1 life to 0. It was just a good game. He went second. He took tempo. And there wasn't much I could do. He played a strategic planning against me and bottomed one of my flames, and I had no flames in grave for a couple turns at that point. And then I just got super unlucky, and he had 3 cards left in his deck, none in his deck, 3 cards left in hand, and I drew into 2 Phoenix Flames. So he was able to at 1 life to 1 life. So if I don't draw into 2 Phoenix Flames there and I draw into anything where I can block, he loses because he's not gonna be able to push enough damage to deal the 1, and he decks out. But he won. It was a really close game. Really good player. Round 2, I beat a fatigued Dromai. I could tell he was a fatigued Dromai because like turn 4, he asked how many cards were in my deck, and I was like 13, 14. I run 32 cards in this deck, so yeah, I could tell like halfway through the game the way he was blocking, he was just trying to fatigue me, which again, red Rise from the Ashes, yellow Rise from the Ashes, it prevents them from being able to fatigue because I'm going to keep leaking through damage. It's just really good. So I beat him pretty easily. It was 10-0, was a life. He just couldn't get things going, and I took tempo. Then round 3, I beat an Icelander. 1-0, super close game, really good player, really smart player, used his Quell perfectly. But I was able to apply just enough pressure to beat him. And ended up taking that 1 life to nothing. So 2-1. I know pretty much now since I lost round 1, I literally have to go 5-1, or by the luck of the gods, go 4-2 and still place top 8. And the only way I could place top 8 going forward too, in my opinion, unless I got super lucky, was lose really late, like last round or something. I basically had to go 5-1. So for my second pod, we ended up playing Ember Blade. Obviously, we did 5. So and Heelless Miter just went into it because it's a token. So I had a full equipment suite here with Phi. The second pod was weird. Everybody in the second pod, I think, drafted properly. I just think we literally had like Icelander, Phi, Dromai. Icelander, Phi, Dromai. And then it was like Phi, Dromai. So we only had 2 Icelanders, but they all were spread out evenly around the table. So like it was really hard to see signs. Like everybody pivoted really late. And it was one of those things like I stayed open in the Draconic until literally like into pack 2. And then finally I was like, okay, I need to pick Fire or Dromai at this point because I don't want to do Icelander. I'm just not, I know Icelander enough, but not enough in limited to be able to know what cards to really, really, really value other than like the obvious ones. So I ended up going into Phi. And this one we got Red Rise from the Ashes as well. I'll go through this one a little bit quicker. Let me just make sure I do this right because I want to give you all what my starters were and what like my non-stars were. This deck, I got a lot of starters, which really helped me. Really helped me push a lot of damage, and I think I could have done better with this deck. I don't know where I went wrong exactly, but I think I could have played a little better. I went 2-1 this pot as well. I lost my first round to Dromai. I don't think that one was my fault, and I'll talk about it in a second, personally, but we'll see. So for my starters, I had Rebellious Rush, Brand with Cinderclaw, Ronin Renegade, Dust Runner Outlaw, another Brand, another Dust Runner. Flame Call Awakening is technically a starter, even though you don't want to use it as a starter. It is a starter. Burn Away, and then Rise and Resentment. So I had 9 starters, really good. And then I had 2 yellow starters at Brand with Cinderclaw and Rebellious Rush. So a lot of starter, a lot of pressure I can apply really early. Then we had a couple conditional ones. Inflame is technically a starter, but you never want to use this as a starter. So I guess you could put it up here. We technically had 4, 8, 12 starters. Cinderskin Devotion, Blaze Headlong, Lava Vein Loyalty, Blaze Headlong, Cinderskin Devotion. So 5 other conditional go against. So you can see a lot of pressure in this build, like really good. And then we had 2 Rupture cards and Lava Burst. So this was an amazing draft pool for me personally. And then we had Rapid Reflex, red, basically a Razor Reflex, really nice in this deck. And then for blues, we had Soaring Strike, Brand with Cinderclaw, Trade In, Rise and Resentment, Brothers in Arms again, Scar for a Scar, Brand with Cinderclaw, Cinderskin Devotion. So that was our pod for pod 2. Again, really solid. Everyone drafted really well. I got really lucky because I just kept getting good starters. I don't know where. I think the other fives were like on the other end of the table. So like the start of every pack for like the first, what happened was, and this is why it was really hard, was the first like 3 to 4 picks of every pack, I got pick of the litter because to my left and right weren't fives, and then only one on one side was a five. The other five was on the other side of the table. So like basically the first two on one side of me and the one on the other side of me were not picking five. So I was able to pick really good cards early, and then late impacts it dried up. Like I'd say like my last 3 picks in every pack were not Draconic or Ninja. They were like Icelander cards. Yeah, I ran this. Obviously, the 3 Phoenix Flames as well. For round 4, I played a Dromai. I misplayed a little bit. I didn't clear his Ash Wings like I should have late game. I ended up losing 3 life to 0, and I wish I could go back and replay that game and see if there was a chance I could win. But to be fair, he played Kyloria his turn 1, and then turn 2 he plays Doombreaker. So like I cleared Kyloria out immediately, but then he had like 2 Ash Wings. So he Ash Wing attacked. I forgot what he attacked with, but he after like 4 chain links, technically, he then plays Doombreaker for 8, and I don't have a popper. So he took so much tempo when he did that. Not much I could do. But at the same time, I think I could have done a little bit more to block out his Ash Wings and maybe give myself a chance to win. Like going back, I wish I could replay that game because I think there was a way I could have won. It would have been very hard and very unlikely, but there was a way I could have won. Round 5, won the 5 mirror 10-0. I went second and just won. Like no weird stuff. Like just went second and took tempo and never gave it up. Round 6 against Icelander, I won 3 life to 0. It was the same player. He played Ice Lexi in our PQ. We ended up playing each other to get into top 8. And I barely eked him out when he was Ice Lexi. He's really smart player, really good player, and we had another really good match. I won 3 life to 0. He had good tempo originally, but I think his swing turn was, I had a really good turn, like damage-wise, but he kept an Arsenal, and his Arsenal was a blue Sigil of Protection, so it wasn't an ice card, but it did block 2 on the next turn. So, but it didn't slow down my turn, right? Like, a blue Sigil of Protection doesn't do too much against 5, to be honest. It's basically it's like a free block 2. So I was able to keep enough pressure, not allow him to Arsenal, and ended up winning. So I went 4-2. Looking at it over here, actually, you can see what happened. So we had 4 people at 5 wins. I'm sorry, 4 people at 5 wins, and then we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people at 4 wins. So, only 4 slots available for 8 people at 4 wins, and I got 9th. Losing early hurt me really bad. Like I said, I wish I could go back to that Dromai game and really try to see what I could do. Maybe I went 5-1 and made top 8, but overall 4-2. Like the Dallas community, as far as Flesh and Blood players, is insane. I'll always say, I'll argue till I'm blue in the face. It's one of the best overall scenes in Flesh and Blood in the U.S. Or it's up there, right? I'm not gonna say it's the best because I haven't been everywhere, but I would say it's definitely one of the best. But yeah, overall not too bad. I would say looking back at the drafts, what cards did really well for me? Red Rasp Me Ashes. If you ever see that card, take it. Flame Call Waking. If you ever see that card, take it. Blaze Headlong is another one. If you ever see that card, take it. But kind of like make sure you have 8 to 10 blues. Make sure you have, I'd say, around 8 starters to 10 starters. Try to at least 8 minimum, I would say, is a good amount. And then from there, you just try to get good quality cards. Yeah, hopefully this made sense to y'all. Hopefully it was somewhat enlightening, I guess, on like how the draft system works. And like what cards I valued, so you can see that. But yeah, if you were at the event, please leave a comment down below. Playtime, I know I met you. Thank you so much for coming up. It's really cool to seeing people who like recognize you, which is actually kind of weird. It still freaks me out because I'm like just a normal dude. So yeah, it was really fun. Really good players. You know, no arguments, no nothing. Really good time. Hopefully to be out there again soon with Bill and his team. Yeah, hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, join Discord down below if you want to. We'd love to have you, whether you're a Ninja player or not, doesn't matter. And I'll see y'all next time on TCD Talk. Thank y'all so much.